And we are live with founder, president, and co-owner of the Texas Revolution, Charlie Hildbold. Charlie, we're excited to have you on today, man. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Glad to be here.
So, a ton going on with the Revolution right now. You guys just switched arenas. You won the championship last year. How's everything going? Fill us in.
Things are really good here. Yesterday was a really exciting day. You know, we've had a good couple months. The championship game was amazing. There's a lot of hard work went into that to pull that off. 2 years ago we were in the championship game and lost, and then last year we had the #1 seed and lost, and so we got back this year, and it took like almost a miracle for us to host that game, and it happened. And so we were given 72 hours to pull that off, and we packed the place in 72 hours, which is not easy to do in our sport at all. So we were really excited about that. We were able to build off of that to win the championship was a lot of fun at home. And, really on top of that, it just, we had the move to Frisco in the works before the season even ended. But it was a lot of negotiating to go through to switch venues. And, we have had a year-to-year lease currently up to this point. But we really wanted to make sure that we had a long-term lease. So negotiating a 5-year lease to make sure that things wouldn't change is not easy. So we're really excited that it happened. And yesterday was just the culmination of a lot of hard work and many, many hours and prayer and everything just to make sure it happened. But we had, probably 150 people out there yesterday. A lot of news people, a lot of local sports people, and it was a lot of fun to show, and it was a big breath of fresh air for sure. We really it was such an exciting day, and it was good.
So, get back to the championship game. How did you fill the stadium in 72 hours after that quick move?
So
before we get into it, for the audience that doesn't know the Texas Revolution, they're a part of the CIF, the Champions Indoor Football.
Yep.
Last year there was 12 teams in the league, correct?
14. There was 14 teams.
14 teams. The Texas Revolution came in and had an awesome year, and then they came and won the championship. Now Charlie's talking about prior to the game they had a last second arena change and 72 hours. How'd you feel it?
So we like I said, we didn't know we were going to be hosting that game. All the signs had pointed us to having to travel to more than likely Sioux City, Iowa, to play.
Sure.
And the team in Sioux City was upset. They lost at home in the last few seconds, which allowed us to host the game. And so we found out Monday night that we were hosting the championship game on Friday, and we came up with an idea of, and I have to credit the rest of the staff here, but we came up with an idea of basically once an hour, every hour for 80 hours leading up to the game to put something out on social media. And so we did ticket giveaways, autographed football giveaways, jersey giveaways, a sweet giveaway for the championship game, field access during the game, that kind of stuff, just to build up the excitement. So we would announce the competition 1 hour, we would pick the winner the next hour, and then the next hour we would announce another one. We did this for 80 straight hours, and it generated so much buzz, and we didn't have to pay a cent for it, and we came close to almost selling out in 3 days, and that was pretty awesome. And it was I believe it was the largest or the second largest crowd we've ever had, and we did it with no notice, so it was pretty amazing.
That's amazing. And so talk about, you were a co-founder of the Revolution 5 years ago. Talk about the building of the Revolution and how you guys got to your championship runs here. I mean, what's that taken from a resource standpoint, from a personnel standpoint? You've obviously been a busy man, to get to where you're at now.
Yeah. So I was here with there was a team before us known as the Allen Wranglers, and we were my partner and I here were working for them. That's the team that famously had Terrell Owens playing for it, and we had to deal with that whole mess, and that team was basically bankrupted by the former owner, and we decided it was a good enough market that we should try to start up a new team. And so we got in touch with the league we were playing in at the time. It was the Indoor Football League, and we got in touch with them and told them that we wanted to launch our own team here in its place, and we did that. Now, I don't recommend. It's a tough business, really tough business.
Right.
I really don't recommend doing it on unemployment, though. That's not a good idea. The two of us, we had no money between the two of us, but we were able to get it launched, and we were able to bring in a few investors at the very start that kind of helped us get it off the ground, including Tim Brown, who was with the Oakland Raiders. And we were so impressed with him after he bought into the company that we made him our GM as well.
Wow.
And then we brought in a few other people that just gave us some stability, so it wasn't a one person organization running the whole thing. And so we wanted to make sure we had some diversity and some support across the community. And so over the last 5 years, we've actually been able to build it up to around 30 small local investors, from people in show business to an anesthesiologist, a gynecologist, a lawyer, a guy that owns a car place, a guy that owns, an accounting firm, just a whole bunch of different random things like that. Mayor of a small city near here bought in. And so we've been able to grow this group that we have, and largely, especially at this level, I'm a big football fan. I'm from Pittsburgh originally, so I enjoy watching football. I enjoy watching the Steelers. But I don't know the first thing about finding players or recruiting or anything. And so, my partner Tommy and I, who helps run it, he's the CEO of the team, and we learned a long time ago that it's the easiest way is to find a good coach and then let him do his job. And so we are very hands off when it comes to the coaching. We let him go out and find the players and fill out his coaching staff. We give him a budget to work with, and that's it, And so the success of the team over the last few years has very little to do with us. It's more the coaching staff doing their job. Now, the success off the field, that's very largely us. We will not see a huge bump up in attendance or anything because of the championship. Sure. It's just not the way it works. Some of the best teams in the league have won championships and then folded because winning doesn't always necessarily translate to more tickets, more advertising.
Right.
That comes largely from our ability here in the office to meet new companies, go out and tell them why we're such a good product, not just the football on the field, but the fact that there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on, that we're a great family environment, that we're a lot of fun, and that we're a heck of a lot cheaper than the other football team here in town, and you can sit a lot closer than you can there, and you don't have to watch it on the big screen. Now, we love them. We now share a city with them, but we're quite different, and that's what we can go out and tell companies that companies and season ticket holders, they're our lifeblood, and that's really largely where that's come from, is our ability to generate that. And that's how we've been successful and managed to keep this team here for 5 years, is through our ability to do that.
Right. Well, and a couple of things from what you just talked about. One, obviously Podyum, we're a pro football recruiting platform. So your coaching staff used us last year. We're excited to work with them again for the off season. Obviously, it continues to be an easier sell to go join the Revolution with everything you guys have.
A championship will definitely make it easier to bring in players. That I can guarantee. It won't translate to ticket sales, which is where I largely specialize. But yes, without a doubt, winning a championship and having our same coaching staff coming back is going to be huge for letting players know, that we're
legit.
To be. Yep.
Exactly. And even along those lines, kind of getting back to all the reasons why you guys are successful, the sponsorships, the city support, what separates, a championship organization from one that folds? You said that even if you win a championship, that doesn't mean that you are guaranteed success in the future. What's the difference?
It's really the attitude you take, the season is so tough. It's such a stressful, heavy workload, and we a lot of teams will get through the season and it's just like we're done. Let's take a month and recharge and then we'll get at it. Well, at that point you've lost an entire month of building your company, and so we've always had the attitude and the practice of starting all of our renewals during the season. And so we start renewing season ticket holders and sponsors before we played our last game. Our goal is to have everyone renewed before we play our last game. Doesn't always happen. It never happens, in fact. There's always people we need to work on. But ideally, if we can get our partners and season ticket holders renewed, we can spend the entire off season growing the business. So instead of spending the whole off season getting back to where we were, we're able to grow from that. And so, especially winning a championship, it was really important. I've won a championship before, so has Tommy, but the rest of the staff hadn't. It was really important that we tell them, we cannot rest on our laurels now. We have to go out and attack this. We have to work harder. Just because we won on the field doesn't mean that we can take it easy. There's still bills that need to be paid. We still need to go out and bring in the business to make this run. And the move to Frisco is going to be huge for that. It's been pretty awesome, the response we've gotten.
No doubt. And so, talk about the CIF. The league continues to expand. Obviously, huge news yesterday with the Sioux Falls Storm. I live in Sioux Falls, so I know the people at the Storm organization. How does that affect you guys and what you're doing and really the league as a whole?
Well, the opportunity to bring in a team of that magnitude, that's a flagship organization. That's a team that they are the model franchise for all for us. I mean, if we could be anywhere near as successful as them, I'm not even talking on the field. On the field, they're on a whole other level. Their coaching staff is something I've never seen at all. It's pure dominance. But off the field, they're $1 million organization, which is unheard of in our business. And that's just as important. Having that team in our league is a huge boost because it's just a financial security. And if the teams in our league can learn from them of how to do the business side of things, then this whole league is going to be so strong. That's a huge move. When we brought in 2 teams from the IFL, Wichita Falls came over as well, and that's a team that's still learning, still growing. They're only a few years old, but we met the owner before he even started. They were in the IFL because we were in the IFL, and they wanted to be close to us, and then we switched before they could even play a game. Financially, it just made more sense for us to be in the CIF, but we're really excited about having them because they're close. That's a nice road trip for us. Instead of having to drive to Kansas or Nebraska, we get to go 2 hours away, and that's awesome. So the goal with this league has always been to get to a certain level and then stop growing. Stick to our footprint, our regional, Midwestern footprint, and then be the best we can be. We want every team to be successful on and off the field. It's really important that financially every team is stable and every team is growing, and that's really bringing in Sioux Falls and Wichita Falls makes that a lot more likely to happen.
No doubt. I mean, it's like you said, organizations like the Storm are kind of they've figured out the model for how to be successful at this level. So then, in regards to the CIF, talk about how you've seen the league grow over the past couple of years. And it seems like the AFL is losing teams, the IFL is losing teams. What's the secret to success in allowing the arena football to thrive?
Well, it's the business model of the league and what the league requires each team to follow. The key is the amount of games we're playing. We only play a 12-game schedule. We have a preseason game we play that allows us to have the benefit and the income of a home game without the matching expense of a road game. But having 12 games really is the key. Other leagues will go with 16 or 18 games. The expense that adds, not just in payroll, but renting arenas and travel and workers' comp insurance and all the other expenses that go along with that make it just so expensive. And so we have stuck firmly to 12 games because it's the best way to make money. On top of that, we have a very strict salary cap that the league has that each team has to follow, and that allows there to be not only parity across the league, but keep the cost down for the teams. It makes it affordable. And years ago, before they bought the rights and rebrand themselves as the AFL, the old AFL went out of business largely because the expenses were way too high. It was the salaries were extravagant, the travel was ridiculous, and when playing in these smaller arenas, there's no way to recoup that money. And then out of the TV deal they had that was costing each team $100,000 a game. Yeah. That's a huge hole to dig yourself out of before you ever play a game. And so playing in these smaller arenas with a smaller amount of rent, but a chance to really do well has been huge. And I think that's what's making each team successful, is that we are making it affordable to be in here. If you live in, we're in a big area here, but there's teams in some really small towns that are operating on really small budgets. And if they can go out and bring in anything, they're going to do well, and a lot of teams have a chance. That we were the only profitable team, or one of only 2 or 3 that I know of in the IFL, and we really struggled to make that happen. But that's not the case with this league. There's a lot of teams making money in this league, and that's a good thing. It is football, and you want to make sure it's fun and everything. But in the end, it's a small business, and losing money in your small business every year gets really old really fast. And so if we have a whole bunch of people that are enjoying what they're doing and providing a good service to the community, but making money while they're doing it, then it's going to continue for a long time.
Yeah. And with that, it seems like the most successful in indoor football are the teams in these kind of niche cities, these smaller cities. 160,000, right?
Yep.
200,000. There's no pro team. So it seems like the smaller market teams are able to kind of get the city on board, have the resources, really get support from the community to make them profitable, right?
That's very much it. Being in a large market, I started with Tommy in Odessa almost 10 years ago. And that's, Odessa is not somewhere I would ever want to live again. Nothing against the people there, but the city is there's just nothing out there. West Texas is just desolate. But, that's a football crazy city, Friday night lights and everything that goes around. They're so proud of their 2 high school stadiums, or the 2 high school teams. And, having been at a Permian versus Odessa game, I had field level passes, and I'm down there and just watching each side of the stadium represent one city, and being a part of that. Football's a huge thing, and so we were the Dallas Cowboys of that market. Everyone wanted to see, if every time we'd have a press conference, it would be covered by all the major news stations, all 4 of them, and the radio stations, and the DJs would be talking about it all morning. And we had a press conference where our inflatable blimp got out the back, and we called a press conference to announce that it was missing. Mm-hmm. And it was covered by everyone. Like, it was like the story, like the Roughnecks blimp is missing. Let's see if we can find it. Like, it was like, how is this a story? But that's West Texas. There's not a whole lot going on out there. Except here now, we're very much a small fish in a big pond, and so that's the struggle we have to overcome in this large market, is that there is so much else going on that they're taking away entertainment dollars. But if we can find our niche, whereas each team has their city is their niche market, but we had to find what works best for us, and so that largely stemmed from, we need to focus on just the county that we're living in. People are not going to drive from a half hour or 45 minutes away, because they're going to pass multiple sports teams, movie theaters, amusement parks, everything else, to get to us, that are going to cost the same amount of money. And so we focused heavily on just the communities we live in, and really attacking the school districts. Getting in with the kids, because if we can get the kids to come out and enjoy the games, then the parents are going to follow, and that's what has made a success. A success. And there's a lot of schools around here, and that's really where we've thrived. But the teams that are in the small markets, they have a huge advantage over the team, those of us in the bigger markets.
Well, right, and it's almost a matter of, as long as an indoor team or arena team stays within their market, they don't try to be an NFL team. They don't try to attract everyone around the country. You stick in your county, in your area, and you get your community to buy in. I mean, we represent, nearly 300 international teams who, it's a similar deal internationally, speaking in Europe specifically, where you have to get the community involved, or else the team's not going to get fans. You're not going to have support and funding, and it's just, you got to focus on the niche that you are currently in. Yeah,
I mean, people get excited about the fact that the league is growing, and it's important to stay focused on your team, on your market, making sure that the people there are taken care of. If the league grows and is stable, then bigger things, nationwide things will come. But really, if we are focused 100% on making sure that our team is the best and our marketplace is the best, everything else will kind of take care of that. And so it's really important, and that's one thing that this league really thrives in, is that the owners here really care about their local marketplaces, and so that's the driving force behind everything we do. Adding in local teams that are close to where other teams are, so that they can have shorter travel distances and build rivalries, and really focus on their local marketplaces. It's not so much we need to go out and get this nationwide TV deal so that we can attract people from Florida to watch us. Like, that's not going to make us a cent, It really, there's no real revenue, especially, we make sure when we're talking to sponsors, we get every dollar we can out of them, because that's the best way to do it. So if we were to go back to them and say, oh, by the way, we're going to be on national TV, you need to give us an extra $1,000. They're like, I don't have an extra $1,000. I gave you all the money I already had, So there's not like, we're not leaving money on the table. So there's not like extra revenue available for us if we were to do that. So it's been largely important for this league and these teams to really focus on making your market and your product as good as it can be, because that's the best way to be successful and ensure long-term stability for everything.
Right. And kind of segueing here, talking about players in your league and players on the Revolution, we have over 10,000 athletes in our system that are looking to play pro football. What are the benefits of playing indoor football? I mean, what is a possible outcome? Are guys getting looks to rise up the ranks to CFL, NFL? Kind of talk on that whole aspect.
I mean, that's definitely the main point. When I meet with companies and explain what we do and how we fit into the football landscape, it's very easy to explain to them and say, especially right now, teams are in training camp and they bring 90 to 100 players into training camp, but only 53 men make the roster. So that leaves 40 players per team times 32 teams. That's 1,200 players that are good enough to play in the NFL, but there's no space for them.
Right.
And so they can go home and sit around on the couch and watch TV and get out of shape, or they can come and play indoor football. They can get filmed, they can, and maybe get seen. As far as we're concerned, I don't know how every team works and what the connections are with other teams, but I know from our perspective, we have, a Cowboy scout at almost every one of our games. Either Will McClay, the head scouting guy with the Cowboys, has someone or is at every one of our games. I've seen him in the stands with Tony Romo before, and they're sitting there watching to see if this running back would be good for us or this wide receiver would be good for us. And having someone like Tim Brown, that's a huge thing for us, because if Tommy or Charlie were to call up, the Houston Texans and say, hey, you got to take a look at this running back, they're like, who are you? We don't know who you are. But when Tim Brown calls, they're like, oh, we should probably listen. This guy knows what he's talking about. And so that's been huge for us. But we have guys that have moved on. There's more than a few players that get looks, and really just getting some play on film. Sometimes it's a need of, they were at a small school and needed to be able to show that they could play at a higher level. They just didn't get enough looks coming out of college. Or there's players that were in the NFL and fell out for various reasons. Maybe they fumbled too much. and they had to show that they can hold on to the ball more, or they had an attitude problem and didn't want to change positions and needed to show that they were amenable to switching positions and working with the coaching staff to make themselves better. There's a whole lot of different reasons why players don't work at that level.
Right.
And if they are told this is why you're not going to make this team, they can come here and work on that one thing. This gives them a chance here in the offseason. And our season ends in June. Training camp starts in July, So, our star running back, Michael Dyer, won Rookie of the Year this year, was up for MVP. He was easily one of the most dominant players in the league. It was evident for someone who doesn't even scout or look at players, I just watch football. It was easy to see that he was one of the only NFL players on the field when he was on. He was untouchable almost every time. Right. And he stayed here to win a championship and then got looks from multiple NFL teams, because he had a great college career, won the BCS offensive MVP with Cam Newton at Auburn, and then was picked up by the Raiders, I believe, last year, and then didn't make it. And so he came here and dominated and got looks from at least 3 teams that I'm aware of. And so if players come here and work on the things that they're told that they need to work on, then they have a good chance of becoming a success. That's largely what I can say. The players that move on are the ones that work on what they need to, but also have someone representing them to say, they need someone calling the NFL. You need to look at him. You need to put together this film and show off.
Well, so you hit on a couple of really important points there. I mean, and I guess this is also a question. How often do you run into guys, who just got out of Cowboys camp and they're just prideful? They're like, "Oh, I'm not playing indoor football or arena football." It's almost like kind of a downgrade for them. And I hear that sometimes, and it's so frustrating to hear that from me, because if you want a chance at playing in the CIF or NFL, you can't afford to take a year off of playing for any player. Any athlete who's watching right now, you cannot afford to take a year off. You need to get film, whether it's AFL, IFL, CIF, even a lower division. I mean, you have to get film, otherwise you're going to become irrelevant very quickly.
Well, what I would say is, the indoor game, especially in the CIF, is as close to outdoor football as you can get. There's a lot more running. There's a lot more, keeping the linebacker in the box as opposed to letting him roam free. Like it's a lot more like the outdoor game. On top of that, you're playing in such a confined space. It's a quarter the size of a normal NFL field, but there's almost the same amount of players. So if you can thrive here, if you can show that you have the speed to get away from players in such a small space, then what are you going to do in a wide open space, So, like, if you can show that, like, I have the ability to dominate in a really tight space, wait till you can see what I can do on a full football field, and that's huge.
Well, and I can talk on that personally because before I went overseas and played my 3 years in Europe, I played for a short stint with the Storm, like very short. They signed me in case if they needed me for playoffs. But I was exposed very quickly because I'm not a very quick guy. I'm more of a strider, and you got to be able to start and stop on a dime in the indoor league. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to be successful. But if you can, like you said, that's going to translate to scouts saying, "Okay, wow, this guy can burst and get away in a matter of 50 yards. Imagine what he can do when the field's doubled."
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing we saw. With Michael Dyer, he had breakaway speed indoors, which does not happen often. These guys, there's so many hard hits up against the wall, flying into the crowd, because it's so small, Mm-hmm. And if you have the ability to get away from people in that tight space, I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Right.
And if you really truly want to make it to a higher league, the CFL, the NFL, where the real money is, you have to be willing to do whatever is possible. And if that means making an average of $170 a week, you know what? It's not easy. I'm not going to tell you it's easy to come and make, whatever it is, $200 a week. But guys have other jobs. We practice at 5 a.m, so the guys can go out and get full-time jobs. So they can supplement themselves with that. On top of that, it's for 3 months, like most people can afford to do that for 3 months and get the film. The film is the most important thing, and having someone compile the film and not, put a whole bunch of music and words all over it. Just let your actions and your play speak for itself, and, not give you a chance to show off who your favorite rapper is.
Exactly. Well, I got one more question for you. So just talk about what's the future look like for the Texas Revolution? What are your personal goals to leading this organization to continue championships and continue success?
Well, we come up with goals every year that we want to see for the organization. The first one is to get another one of those. Yeah. So, every year that's the goal, to put us in a position to get another one of those. But we also want to be profitable. Our goal is to go out and, as a small business and as people who live off of this company, we have to make more than we spend every month, and that's our main goal. And so everything we do, every action we take, changing venues, hiring staff, is all with an eye towards making the team successful and grow. And so our goal is to have our coach put a winning team on the field, and we as a staff take care of making sure that every single fan is leaving happy. Whether it's win or lose, they're going to enjoy themselves at the game, and that's really the most important thing. So if we can put together a good product in the field, make money for the team, make it profitable and successful, that's a good year in my book.
No doubt. Well, I'm excited to see how you guys turn out next year. It's an exciting time for the CIF. Yep. And Charlie, we appreciate your insight and getting able to hear your story and the Rev story. And we just wish you the best of luck at Podyum.
That'll be great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Charlie. Take care.
No problem.